Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you. It's going to be a good one. And of course, we're getting it on as we go. And, everyone, another great day in the Milky Way. And for the big adventures right here. And thank you all for coming. Tonight we got another great show for you. And, we are going to be reading from this book right here, The Star Library, back with another episode. And we're going to continue on. Remember, our hero is, this is a true story. This guy is on with a trapping crew, and they are in the 1840s, and they are going out to trap beavers and things like that, and their adventure across the plains to get where they need to go, day by day, week by week. Shooting buffalo, having adventures, seeing Indians, going out on the plains for the first time and seeing the Rocky Mountains, crossing rivers. It's all very interesting, step by step, and adventures through the rain and the snow and the cold. What will happen to them? So join me now as we present I present you some pictures, because you don't want to look at my ugly mug all that much. So here we go. And we'll do that. And that's much better. Anyhow, we'll pick up where we left off the last time. October 24th, about noon, we crossed Godinville's Creek, a large easterly something on the Platte, by the Platte River. This stream also diverts its name from the trapper. Oh, okay. I guess I got that covered up. This book is old. From a trapper killed near it in the Indian fight some 8 years since. Upon the south bank of the Gonville's Creek, 10 or 12 miles from the river, is a singular natural formation known as the courthouse, or McFerrin's Castle, on account of its fancied resemblance to such a structure. It rises into an abrupt quadrangular form to a height of 300 or 400 feet and covers an area of 200 yards in length by 150 broad, occupying a perfectly level site in an open prairie. It stands as a proud palace of solitude amid her boundless domains. Its position commands a view of country for 40 miles around and meets the eye of the traveler for several successive days in journeying up the Platte. We have been in sight of it for 3 days, and even now it seems no matter that than at first, notwithstanding our course, meanwhile, has borne not far from a direct line towards it. Here, for the first time, I remarked the deceptiveness of distances on the high prairies and in the regions adjacent to the mountains. Yeah, okay, adjacent to the deceptive. Sometimes an object will appear as if within a mile at most, which cannot be reached, short or of 15 or 20 miles. Then again, objects will seem to be much further off than they really are. I attribute this in part to several causes. First, the variable state of the atmosphere in regards to density. Second, to the absence or platitude of humid exhaustions and cumulative in the air of different regions. Third, the particular location of some places in regard to the reception of the sun's rays. Well, there we go. In passing from Godinsville Creek to Fort Platte, we encountered no more buffalo. These animals have been driven back into the high prairies by the bands of strolling Indians. If the prospect had hitherto been lonesome, it now seemed there threefold lonely. A heart-beaten footpaths that had furrowed the bottoms and plains in all directions. Ever since our first entrance to the buffalo range, were still seen, but unhonored by the presence and unmarked by the footprints of their William travelers. They looked like the once often trodden streets of some deserted city. Late in the afternoon, we joined by two engages from the Fort Platte, whose object it was to hasten our advance. Soon after, we entered upon a stretch of burnt prairie and were compelled to travel till daylight the next morning before sufficiency of grass could be found for camping place. October 25th. Resuming our course, about midday we had proceeded only a few miles when a mounted Indian appeared upon the opposite bank of the river and accosted us. Che hoko, hano, chiamano pima, ha, mi husa hotur. Tell me, my friend, tell me, friend, who are those, the long knife wagons? That's what he was saying. That's translation, people. They're looking for the long knives. On being answered in an affirmative, he commenced crossing to join us. Plunging into the river with his horse, he had proceeded about midway of the stream when the panting beast suddenly sank into the quicksand, throwing its rider head foremost into the water. At length, having effected a ford, he hurried up to us, profusely dripping and with wet as evidence of the thoroughness of his recent drenching. First, shaking hands with the company, he began to inquire about liquor, affirming the wagons contained the article and adding it was right the long knife should bring the firewater to give to the red man, as did the bad medicine. But it was wrong to sell it. For his part, he would not buy the firewater. He would buy blankets, knives, beads, and ammunition, not the firewater. But the long knife should give it to him. The personage thus induced was one of the chiefs of the brutal Sioux, and sported the name of Marto Cochin, or Brave Bear. He was a turbulent fellow that proved the pest of the village traders. Slim and spare made in person, he was somewhat pale and sickly looking, and seemed about 30 years of age. His arms were short and fierce. With a fuse with the bow and arrows slung to his shoulders and a butcher knife affixed to his belt. His hair was long and parted in front and turned backwards, that upon the occupant being bound in a cluster with panther's skin hung in a plaited queue and almost trailed the ground, while a lone eagle's plume completed his headdress. A robe enveloped his body, which, with moccasins, leggings, and breechcloth, constituted his full costume. A description of the dress responding to that almost universally common among mountain tribes. We were soon joined by others of his people who eagerly inquired respecting the amount of liquor brought with us. Among these were several individuals recognized by our voyagers as old acquaintances, particularly one, an old chief called Bulltail, Tahunganasa, who, that's his Indian name, who was distinguished in attire from his fellows by the addition of a hair seal cap and a frock coat, which he had received as presents from the whites. One of our party gave a favorable account of the old fellow and related a story much to his credit. The narrator, during the previous winter, while searching for stray horses among the hills, had become so bewildered he was unable to find his way back to camp. He thus wandered for 4 successive days, unarmed, without food, and without a single robe for covering. His destiny would doubtless have been to perish had not the kind-hearted Tungasana discovered him, and pitying his forlorn condition, taken him to the village, upon his own horse, some 20 miles off, going himself on foot the entire distance. Here the lost one was treated to the best of his lodge, and his deliverer afforded that, when sufficiently recovered, he was escorted to the nearest station of the whites. I turned for another look at the worthy chieftain, who now rode up and greeted his prodigy with much cordiality. Let's see. So, yeah, he did this one. So, isn't that something? See, the white man really wasn't all that bad, and these people weren't all that bad to them. No, we did the river one. Let's go with this one. There we go. Oh, Americans are known among them. The American Fur Company employed almost exclusively Frenchmen, and our individual speaking the French language receives this application of Wachisa, or the Bad Medicine Company, a phrase universally applied to French among the mountain tribes. Okay, let's get back on with our story, people. He appeared to be about 80 years of age and was gray-headed, spared visage, and much wrinkled. His coat, buttoned close around him, served for a robe, while his matted earlocks disclosed upon one side a raven's and upon the other a hawk's feather for ornaments. His face, like those of his companions, was liberally belued with vermilion, and each cheek embellished with alternate spots of white and black by way of variety. His only weapons were a bow, arrows, and a tomahawk pipe. As a whole, he presented rather a shabby and ludicrous appearance that were, if it not for the recollection of his worthy conduct, would have excited in the mind of the beholder far more of contempt than interest. A Sioux squaw, the wife of a French engaged, accompanying us on her return from the States, now received the marked attention of our visitors. It is rare that an Indian will shake hands with a woman, but now they might break through the restraints of custom. This was a special case. She had visited the white man's lodge and could tell them many interesting things. She was something more than a common squaw. They might shake hands with her. She was accordingly greeted in the most flattering manner, and found tedious employment in answering the numerous questions which she was asked. Continuing for a few miles further, we made camp just at nightfall, and were promptly joined by a new recruit of inquisitive visitors from an adjoining village. The whole throng of Indians now numbered some 30 and demanded a talk with the long knife. Upon this, a circle was formed with the whites upon one side and the Indians upon the other. When the Markatulashan opened the harangue in behalf of his people, he commenced in a low, distinct tone of voice. His robe, drawn closely around him, was held to its place by the left hand, exposing his right arm and shoulder. As he proceeded, he became more animated and seemed to enter into a full spirit of his discourse. The modulations in his voice, its deep intrusions and expressive cadence, coupled with the corresponding appropriateness of every look and gesture, presented one of the most perfect specimens of delivery I ever witnessed. His speech, as imperfectly translated upon the occasion, ran as follows: Long Knife, we glad to see you. We are glad to see your people, and shake you all by the hand, that we may smoke together and be friends. Long Knife, we are glad the Great Spirit has put it in your heart to return with the road travelers, the wagons, and the white buffalo, oxen, and the medicine dogs, the horses, bearing firewater, whiskey, blankets, and many other good things. Yet the chill winds and snows have compelled his children to light the lodge fires of winter. The Long Knife brings choice things to the red man, and it is good that we trade. Then there was applause. The Great Spirit is good to his children. To us, he has given the buffalo, the elk, the deer, the antelope, and we may feed and clothe and furnish with lodges to shelter us from the storms and cold. To us, he has given the mountains and prairies for hunting grounds. For us, he has taught the streams to flow and planted trees upon their banks to give us food and drink. And we may meet around our lodge fires and comfort and rejoice in his goodness, even while he spreads his white robe upon the hills and lays couch of winter upon the plains. All this country, everything that the Long Knife beholds are ours. The yellow hair, said Truly, all belong to us. We have them. The Great Spirit has given them to us. They are ours. More applause. Long Knife, you have come to trade with us. It is good. Your people are wise and make many things. You bring them to us. We take them, but we give you robes and horses in their stead. We pay you for them all. Yet the Long Knife pays not for all he takes from us. Do I say the Long Knife steals? No, the Long Knife will not steal. He says none but bad men steal, and the Long Knife is not bad. But yet he takes our property without paying for it. He kills our game. He eats our meat. He burns our wood. He drinks our water, and he travels our country. And what does he give the red man in exchange for all of this? More applause. Long Knife and friend, my people are generous and they are brave. They are soldiers. They are all soldiers. The Long Knife bears the firewater in his road traveler, the wagons. And we have heard of it and are glad. My people would drink of the firewater, that their strong hearts may become stronger. It is good, and they should drink it. It is good that the Long Knife should give it to them, that we be twice glad to see him and bless him in our hearts. We will drink around our lodge fires. And more applause. Long Knife, would you be our friend? Then give us the firewater. My people are generous, but they are brave. The Long Knife has taken our property. Let him refuse not the firewater, lest they be angry and rise like the mountain bear, nerved for conflict. They will take it upon themselves and avenge the wrongs of the red man. More applause. Upon this, the brave bear resumed his seat, and commandment began his reply, which was rendered into the Sioux language by their interpreter. The purport of it was, it is true, the Great Spirit is good to his children. He made all things of which the brave bear speaks, and he has given them to his children. The white and red man are alike his children, and the buffalo and the elk, the deer and the antelope, with the wood, the water, and the whole country around equally belong to both. I and many people have come as friends to trade with you. We have smoked with you before. The long knife takes nothing from you he pays not for. He buys the things he bears to you in a far distant country and throws them the white iron. He brings them to you and swaps them for robes and horses. He takes nothing without paying for it, unless it be that which the Great Spirit has given equally to his children. The white and the red man would be Brave Bear and his people be friends to us. We are friendly. We are generous. We will give tobacco to Brave Bear, that he and his people may smoke and be our friends. But the long knife will not give him the fire water. Let him come to the long knife's lodge, then let he have it a little, that he may bless the long knife in his heart. The Brave Bear can have none now. The Brave Bear says his people are generous, but they are brave. They are soldiers. Be it so. My people are generous. They are brave. They are all soldiers. Does the Brave Bear wish to fight? My people are ready for either smoke or fight. The Brave Bear says, unless I give him the fire water for his people, they will nerve their arms for conflict and take it. Will they? Let them try. The long knife says, let them try. The conclusion of this reply was received with a bad grace by those to whom it was addressed and created great excitement among them. Several left for the village, obviously for the purpose of arming and returning with the increased numbers to the meditated attack. Meanwhile, our arms were put into the proper condition for resistance, and all needful arrangements made to give the assailants a warm reception should they commence upon us. This done, our commandant brought a few plugs of tobacco, and laying them before the Brave Bear, said, it is good that Brave Bear and his people should smoke. Here is tobacco. Let him take it to the warriors, and we and they be friends, or would he rather fight? Bulltail, who had hitherto remained silent, now rose and addressed his companions. Don ta Tungusta, Bulltail, is grieved at the words of Brave Bear. Would my brother fight the long knife and rob him of what he has brought to us, that they may become fools by drinking the fire water? Who shall then bring us medicine iron? Guns. He's talking about guns. To kill our meat, or knives to butcher it, or blankets and beads for our squaws, and the red earth, the vermilion, to paint our faces when we arm for war. And who shall bring us with all the other things so needful for us? The long knife will not do it. You rob him, no one will bring them to us. We shall be without them. We shall be poor indeed. Brothers, why would you drink the fire water and become fools? Would it not be better that the long knife no more bring it to us? We give it for our robes and our horses. It does us no good. It makes us poor. We fight our own brothers and kill those we love because the fire water is in us and makes our hearts bad. The fire water is Red Man's enemy. Brothers, Tungusa is old. Will you listen to him? He has been always the friend of the paleface. When first the yellow hair, General Clark, came to the Red Man's lodge, Tunduska took him by the hand. He will always take the paleface by the hand. He loves the paleface. The paleface is his brother. He is our brother. He brings us many good things. Brothers, the long knife has spoken well. It is good that we smoke, that we and the long knife and his people may be friends. Let us accept his presence. Well, that's a good one. Oh, yeah. The speech was received in silence. No one experienced either appropriation or dissonance as the old man resumed his chat or his seat. The brave bear hung his head sully but said nothing. The talk evidently come to a close. At last Bulltail arose, and shaking hands with the commandant and each of his company, took the tobacco and left for the village. The others soon after, one by one, followed his example and were finally rid of their unwelcome presence. Not, however, until they had stolen an axe and several other articles, despite the strictness of our vigilance. Okay, chapter 6. That's right. We're on chapter 6 already. This is October 26th. Ooh, it's probably starting to get cold now. Raising camp at daylight, we resumed our way and soon afterwards arrived opposite the chimney, an extraordinary natural curiosity that had continued in view and excited our admiration for some 4 days. This singular formation surmounts a conical eminence which rises isolated and lonely in the open prairie, reaching a height of 300 feet. It is composed of terrene limestone and marl, quarrily shaped like a spire of some church, 6 feet by 10 feet at the base, with an altitude of more than 200 feet, making together with the mound an elevation of 500 feet. A grand and imposing spectacle, truly a wonderful display of the eccentricity of nature. How come such an immense pile is so singularly situated? What causes their aid to throw up his lone column so majestic in a solitude to overlook the vast unbroken plains that surround it? The chimney is situated about 3 miles to the left of the mountain trail, though through it seems no more than 800 yards distance. Upon this question, our party entertained no small diversity of opinion. Some of the less knowing were confident it would not exceed a half mile, and one fellow offered to bet $5 he could run to it in 15 minutes. The banter was promptly accepted, and the greenhorn, doffing his coat and hat, started in full expectation of winning the wager. But instead of 15, it took him 45 minutes to reach the spot. The day after passing the chimney, we entered a broad defile of lofty ridges and made camp. The locality is known as Scott's Bluff, which is, promptly speaking, a wing of the Rocky Mountains. Off to the Rocky Mountains they go. Yes, what are they doing in the Rocky Mountains? It is time to do whatever they got to do. They're trading. Look at that. There you go. From Ash Creek to this place, an almost perceptious wall of encrocious rock and limestone and marl shuts the high prairie from the river bottoms. As the traveler proceeds, this wall or ledge gradually increases in height and recedes from the river sometimes to a distance of 30 or 40 miles, till it unites in a chain of hills, many of which are covered with sturdy pines, and others are mere heaps of naked sand and endured earth. The ridge then continues its course until it is at length becomes united with the lateral chains of the Rocky Mountains, which bounds the plains of Laramie. upon the southeast. At Scott's Bluff, these hills crowded themselves abruptly towards the Platte, where the present, at most romantic and picturesque scenery, our camp was in rich opening, or a valley 2 miles wide and walled in upon the right and left by particular masses of earth and rock that tower in height from 300 to 800 feet. In reaching it, the trail bore leftward from the river about 7 miles through a level prairie, by which we were introduced to a valley without any perceptible variation of its general surface. Wow, quite the road. Or maybe it's this one. Yeah, there we go. More Indian trading. Near the entrance upon our left, the spectacle was of grand and imposing beyond description. It seemed as if nature, in its mere sportiveness, had, through its excess, the noblest works of art, and rear up to mimic the city as a grand metropolis of her empire. There stood the representations of palaces, with their domes and betrayeds, churches with their spheres and cupoles, and streets with their gigantic dwellings, stores, workshops, and warehouses. And there also were parks, pleasure grounds, and public squares, all so admirably divined by the agency of the wind and rains of ages that the traveler might readily imagine himself to have arrived within the precincts of a deserted city of some peopleless country, whose splendor and magnificence are more than vivid on the far-famed Palmyra of the desert, even in its days. To the right arose a pile of sand, rock, and marl in a pyramidal 300 feet high that occupied its prairie site, detached from other eminences. Near this stood a more singular formation than any veracity noticed. It described a complete circle of 1,000 feet in circumference, and attained an altitude of not far from 400 feet. Its sides were of great regularity and represented masses of solid masonry work, rising abruptly till within 60 or 70 feet of the summit, where they decline into a blunt cone-like manner, reducing the precipice to 1/3 that of the base. At this point is reposed a semi-spherical form, regularly jutting with the gradual swell upon all sides, that tapering to an oval shape till near the apex, at which the whole mass is surrounded by a rude imitation of sculptural flame pointing upwards to the sun, as if this strange monument of nature had been erected in honor of the great source of light and heat. Still further to the right upon the river bank is another immense pile, exceeding either of the before described in altitude. It is oblong, square, and presents erectile lateral walls upon 3 sides, leaving upon the fourth a gradual accumulative with which faces the river. Its summit expands into a beautiful terrace containing an area of several acres, which at the proper season is adorned with herbs, flowers, shrubbery, and grass, like a pleasure garden upon some housetop, and commands a view of the whole country, lending enchantment to the neighboring scenes. Its base is about 1 mile long by 1,200 yards wide, and points eastwise or endwise from the river towards the valley. Then comes the continuing wall, which bounds the locality upon the right. The likewise presents a level summit, varying from the 15 yards to a half mile in breadth for a distance of 10 miles. When slowly sinking in its course, it finally becomes lost in the prairie. Covered with grass and shrubs, it is the favorite home of the mountain sheep, and where she breeds and rears her young, secure in her incessable fastness, and oftentimes from its precipitous edge, an elevation of 600 or 800 feet above the adjacent prairie, where her head and mammoth horns be seen peering in wonder upon the rare traveler as he passes adown the valley. The interval between the two mural ridges of the uniform width for above 10 miles is watered by a beautiful stream nearly the whole distance. When it induces the traveler to its open prairie, leaving the immense wall which bounded it upon the leftward at his entrance, transformed to high colloquial hills covered with pines and almost lost to view in the growing space, while that upon his right, diminishing in size, gradually disappears and unites with the far spreading plain. Most of the varieties of wild fruits indigenous to the mountains are found in this vicinity, and also numerous bands of buffalo, elk, deer, and sheep, and antelope, with the grizzly bear. In the summer months, the prospect is almost delightful and affords to the admiring beholder an Eden of fruits and flowers. No higher encumbering could be passed upon in that, by employing the homely phrase of one of our voyagers. In speaking of the variety enhancements of this scenery at the season, he said, I could die here then, certain it be not far from heaven. Before leaving this romantic spot, feelings of gloom and melancholy usurped those of pleasing admiration by the death of one of our number. Wow. The deceased was on his way to the mountains for the recovery of his health, with a frame fearfully reduced by the ravages of a fellow destroyer, consumption. For several days past, he had declined rapidly, owing to the weather and the unavoidable exposure incident to our mode of traveling. Today, the cold was more than usually severe, and uncomfortable rain and sleet commenced soon after camping. In the attempt to pass from the wagons to the fire, he staggered and fell. Before any one of us could arrive to his assistance, he had breathed his last. We buried him upon the bank of the stream that winds its course through the valley. Darkness, with its stable pall, had enveloped the scene as we covered him from view, and left the winds and the wolves to howl his reclaim, until the voice of spring shall bid the wildflowers grow and bloom upon his grave. This lovely valley had before this witnessed the death scene of one of who left his bones to bleach within its limits. His name was Scott, from whom the neighboring emissaries derived their pleasant apprehension. Attracted by the enchanting beauty of this place, the great abundance. Well, let's see. Let's go to. I wish I had a better picture for this. Let's go to this one. That looks pretty. Attracted by the enchanting beauty of this place, the great abundance of game the vicinity afforded, he wandered hither alone and made it his temporary residence. While thus enjoying the varied sweets of solitude, he became the prey of sickness and gasped his life away, and none were there to watch over him but the sun by day and the stars by night, or fan his fevered brow, save the kindly breezes, or bemoan his hapless fate, and that are than a grueling stream that sighed its passing sympathy. besides the crouch of death. There is a mournful interest in the touching melancholy associated with the simple story, and that must thrill with emotional and finer feelings of our nature. The incident which had so recently transpired contributed to enhance these gloomy sensations to an extent I never before experienced. I felt, I cannot tell how. I felt like giving vent to my feelings in verse, yet I cannot write poetry. I made the attempt, however, and here is a result before the reader. The wanderer's grave, away from friends, away from home, and all the heart holds dear. A weary wanderer laid him down, nor kindly aid was near, and sickness preyed upon his frame and told its tale of woe, while sorrow marked its platted cheeks and sank his spirit low. Nor waiting friends stood round his crouch, healing to impart, nor human voice spoke sympathy to soothe his aching heart. The stars of night his watchers were, his fan the rude wind's breath, and while they sighed their hollow moans, he closed his eyes in death. Upon the prairie's vast expanse, this weary wanderer lay, and far from friends and far from home, he breathed his life away. A loving valley marks the spot that claims his loving bed, but the wanderer's hapless fate, no friendly tear was shed. No willing grave received the corse of this poor lonely one. His bones at last were left to bleach and molder neath the sun. The night wolf howled his requiem, the rude winds danced its dirge, and anon in mournful chime sighed forth the mellow surge. The spring shall teach the rising grass to twine for him a tomb, and the spot where he both doth lie shall bid the wildflowers bloom. But far from friends and far from home, dismissal though they to die, let me mid my friends expire, and with my fathers lie. And we're going to end right there. Sorry if this one was a long one, people, and it's been a lot of fun. So stop sharing. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that. And we will pick up at August 27th. This is October 27th. There, October 27th. I'm marking it down so we don't forget. Anyway, October 22nd, we'll continue there. Prairie traveling the prairie, of course, of all things. Well, it's been fun, and it seems that my conclusion of all of this is that you're out on the prairie and you just, you're at the forces of nature, the Indians. If you have sickness, you could just die. There's nobody to watch over you. You just die and your bones rot in the sun. The wolves come and feast off of you. That's just kind of the way it goes. So with that, I guess we'll just bid adieu. There's really not much more than that. I mean, beautiful place though, Chimney Rock. The sights and sounds that the guy would have heard, the beautiful scenery. Oh my gosh, is probably overwhelming. But they're on a mission, and that mission is to get to the mountains, and they are on their way. And along the way, there's a lot of interesting things. And he's realizing that there's a lot of land there, lots and lots of land. And the eye is deceiving because there's no trees or hills or anything to judge things with. So things that seem far away are close are far away, and things just, they're hard to see. Well, you heard the story. So anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Remember, go out and be the frequency you want to receive, and and have an adventure of your own. And if you want, read a book like this. This would be great, you know? So remember,